567 of the Polite Society podcast here in just a minute. But just to be very honest with you, we're still trying to get our I's dotted and T's crossed.
I came into the story about how you pronounce your name, and then I find out I have to pronounce your name. And I didn't hear how you pronounce your name.
So it's Dan Grdovic.
Grdovic. Got it. Okay. Because I'm like, I'm missing that. Because otherwise I'll just make something up and it'll be bad.
All right.
You know, Dan is fine. Dan G is fine too. So.
You know what? We're gonna do this really stinking old school. Robyn, when you're done, we're gonna do something that hasn't been done since like episode 30. Robyn, when you're done, I'm gonna say all of climb aboard, strap in, and hang on. Episode 567.
Sounds good.
Usually we break that up, but because there's just a skeleton crew tonight.
We're good.
Yeah.
We'll make it up.
The best, though, right? The best. You make it sound like we're...
All right. And so I need to, Dan, I need to make you disappear for about 10 minutes.
See you, Dan.
And when we go into the first commercial, all of a sudden, poof, you're going to see yourself come on screen again. Coming out of that commercial, we're going to start your interview. We're already getting social media commentary. Iron Horseman says hello over on YouTube. Thank you, Iron Horseman. Oh, and before we go recording, I ought to go turn on commentary on Facebook so I can actually...
Probably ought to.
So I can actually put some of those comments in.
Man, I got a feedback. Are you guys hearing that?
I'm not.
Okay, it's just me. I'll just ignore it.
Okay.
There. I'll make it so I only hear it with one ear.
So where is my 4-shot? There's my 4-shot. Right there. Box 4. And I need to go down to input 34. No. Goodness, it's way down there. 42. Okay. All right. I am going to go ahead and start recording in 5, 4, 3.
Hey gang, this is Masad Ayub from the Pro Arms Podcast. I'm here to remind you that our podcast is a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network, and I'm going to suggest you do what we do and check out the other podcasts at selfdefenseradio.net.
Treat every firearm as if it's loaded.
Never point a firearm at anything you're not willing to kill or destroy.
Keep your finger off the trigger until you are on target and ready to fire.
Always be sure of your target and what lies beyond it.
Hi, and welcome to the Polite Society Podcast, powered by the Second Amendment Foundation. We're recording this one on Monday, November the 30th, 2020. I'm Paul Lathrop.
Oh, that's probably me, huh?
That is definitely
I'm
you.
Amanda. I'm Amanda Suffolk, and on tonight's show, we're going to talk to Dan Grdovic about the CNJFO.
I'm Robyn Sandoval, and we'll talk about a safety recall on some Smith & Wesson pistols.
So climb aboard, strap in, and hang on. Episode 567, of the Polite Society Podcast does start right now. Hey everybody, it's a Monday, so that means it is time for the Polite Society Podcast. We are operating on an absolute skeleton, and I mean skeleton crew right now. We've got me, we've got Amanda, and we got Robyn, and that's what you're going to get tonight.
The best and the brightest is what you've got. Instead of the skeleton crew, instead of the dregs in the bottom of the coffee cup with the coffee grounds left in there. Come on.
I'm a modern guy. I use those pods. I don't use an old-fashioned brewer. You get the grounds. So, the bottom of the cup is good as the top. Anyway, that's neither here nor there, really. And it's going to be one of those nights, I think. Amanda,
the wheels are falling off.
I don't know that we ever had any. We normally start with Rob, but I'm going to go ahead and start with you. What have you been up to since the last time you've been on the air?
Well, the biggie is that I have been working with the ODNR, Ohio Department of Natural Resources, on their grant blocks for Get Out. I don't know what they call it exactly. Get out in the field. Go out and do stuff. Go have shooting adventures. That the step outside or step outdoors or one of those kind of things. And the cool part is that it is funded by the Pittman-Robertson money. That is, every time you buy a gun, every time you buy ammo, a little bit of that money is set aside for Pittman-Robertson that comes back to each state and then is doled out to get outdoorsmen and women, back out into the field and doing cool gun-ish, outdoors-ish things. And so I've been playing with that. We're going to do some women's programs and a little bit of reloading and some flintlocks, and so I'm kind of thrilled. So, Robyn, what about you?
Well, this past week was Thanksgiving, so I was really grateful to spend time with my kiddos at home. I've been doing some virtual girls' nights out, which is always really great across the Girl and the Gun community to be able to meet people where they are, wherever they're traveling or wherever they're quarantined or wherever they happen to be. So we've done a couple of virtual girls' night outs. We have another one tomorrow that's scheduled. And just been doing a lot of virtual training, a lot of welcoming new gun owners. They're coming in now again, starting to ramp up for Christmas. We're seeing a lot of ladies join us as a Christmas gift. Spouses and friends are looking for training for them. So that's always a really fun conversation to have, to make sure that with the firearm comes the training, and with the show and tell around the Christmas tree comes safe gun handling. So that's a lot of what I'm doing these days. What about you, Paul?
Well, I am busier than a one-legged man in a butt-kicking contest. I'm telling you what. I am. Today I had an article that was supposed to get pushed back to tomorrow because there's some. It's right. We had to get some details with a second source that were knocked out, but that didn't happen till after go time for the website. So that. I had to come up with, on the fly, another article, and then I've been scheduling. On Saturday, I start driving out to Washington State because they want me to come work from the home office for a week, and I have been trying to get a week ahead on all of my work so that I don't have to do as much broadcasting when I'm in Washington. The studio I have set up here, I'm not kidding, it takes 2 days to set up and 1 day to break down. So I would be out there Monday and Tuesday setting up to get ready to broadcast and breaking it down. So I'd be able to broadcast Wednesday, Thursday, and then breaking it all down to come home. Not really productive. So long and short of that, what that means for all of you is probably not going to be a Polite Society podcast next Monday. If there is, it's not going to look anything like what you're going to see tonight. In other words, it'll just be me. I won't have these other two ladies here to pull the viewers in, because let's face it, nobody wants to look at my mug. But if there is a show next week, it'll probably be just me, maybe interviewing one or two people. I don't know. We'll see what happens when I get to Washington. But I've had to get interviews scheduled because I got to have daily interviews for the Second Amendment Foundation's Daily Bullet. Have all got to keep going out while I'm out there. And just trying to arrange guests, trying to get all the schedules juggled. and continue to write stuff. So if I've been awake, I've been working. That's kind of the way it's been. I've got one final class on Thursday, and I leave on Saturday, and we've got live shows Wednesday night and Friday afternoon. But I've got one final class for this handgun lifestyle class that I've been taking with Active Self-Protection. And I am really looking forward to that. On Thursday at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I get to shoot the FBI qualification. And I'm a little nervous, but if what Neil told me is accurate, when I went into the class, we did a dry run of it, a non-scored run, and I basically passed when I went in, and I've gotten better since then. So, but still, fingers crossed. I don't want to screw things up.
It's always that thing where you don't want to embarrass yourself, no matter what, right?
Right.
These are people you know, like, and respect, and you want to do your
There's
best.
a few listeners in the class, so
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I'm known for my opinions, not for my shooting ability. Even so, I don't want to, really stink up the joint in front of a bunch of people that may listen to the show. I know at least 2 that do regularly. So, all right, I think that's it for what's going on with me. We need to talk real quick about the Self-Defense Radio Network. Of course, those of you that can see it on your screen right now, sdrn.us. All your Pro Freedom podcasts in one place. Because she's here with me this week, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to highlight the one down there on the second row, third one in, Eye on the Target Radio. Great show. She had a really fascinating guest on yesterday. I really enjoyed listening to that guy, and I just had a whole lot of fun the whole time. Also, you want to check out other shows like Self-Defense Gun Stories, Geeks, Gadgets, and Guns, and a lot of other great shows on the network with more to come. So that's going to do it for our opening segment. We're going to go ahead and jump to break. When we come back, we've got a guest, and Amanda knows how to pronounce his name, and he told me once how to pronounce his name. Dan Grdovic.
Grdovic.
Okay. I was close. I was closer than I was the first time I guessed. We're going to go to break.
Folks, if you're looking at a screen, you're going to see that he's missing all the consonants. No, he's missing all the vowels. He's full of consonants.
He's got plenty of consonants. We'll be talking with him right after this.
This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network. If you carry a defensive handgun, you need protection from the aftermath of prosecution. Even if you do everything right, you can be the victim of an overzealous prosecutor or even be falsely accused. That is where the ACLDN comes in. They provide immediate assistance when you need it most. If you find yourself under arrest, they immediately pay bail money and the retainer for your attorney. Additional funds are available for trial and civil proceedings. Beyond the money, they have far and away the best team in the industry, providing you invaluable information and training DVDs that are included with your membership, and who stand ready to work with your lawyer on your defense. People like Masad Ayub, John Farnham, James Fleming, Tom Givens, Emmanuel Capelson, Dennis Tuller, and led by Network President Marty Hayes. Initial membership is only $135 for your first year, and you get 8 incredible training DVDs and other educational material when you join. If you don't have tens of thousands of dollars to defend yourself at your disposal right now, you need to be a member of the ACLDN. Go to armedcitizensnetwork.org and become a member today. And please mention that you heard about them on the Polite Society podcast.
All right, we are back. This is the interview segment of the Polite Society podcast, powered by the Second Amendment Foundation. I'm going to take one more shot, even though it was just told to me by Amanda. Our guest today is Dan Grdovic. I'm close.
I'm going to say Grdovic.
Grdovic. Okay.
So, Dan, tell us. How do you say it?
Oh, you know what?
Oh, you're muted.
Dan's
Unmute him.
muted. I've got it. I'm on it. Here we go. And this is
Okay.
there are no wheels on the train. It derailed because we didn't put wheels on it. Dan, how are you tonight, man?
Okay, how are you, Paul? Hey,
Doing
I
great.
gotta say, man, first it's smooth peanut butter, and now it's coffee pods? Come on, man.
Oh,
brew a cup
dude.
of coffee.
And get this, I put cream in it, and I like hazelnut coffee. So,
Okay, I like hazelnuts, so I can't fault you there. So,
all right. Well, Dan, the reason we brought you on tonight, and you have to put up with 30 minutes of this, man. Sorry about that, but the reason we brought you on tonight, we want to talk about CNJFO and see. Let's see. Do me a favor, because I'm horribly underprepared. What does CNJFO stand for to start with?
we are the Coalition of New Jersey Firearm Owners. Okay, we were founded about 5 years ago. We have a mission to educate the public, obviously, on firearms, and also eliminate this ridiculous standard in New Jersey of justifiable need, which basically, as one of our organization friends, Anthony Calandro, has said, you only get your carry permit in New Jersey posthumously after you're dead. That's the only time it's offered. There was a gentleman by the name of Mueller who applied for a carry permit. He was not just kidnapped once, he was kidnapped twice, mistaken identity both times. And even after the second attempt, they would not give him his carry permit. So he appealed and appealed and appealed, and finally they relented when they realized that the situation was such that he had a very good case and potentially could have set precedent-setting legislation, that all of a sudden he was bought off with a carry permit. And we have had many situations in New Jersey similar to that. So when we see gentlemen fighting against that, such as Jay Factor and Mark Cheeseman, who have put together a great case that went up all the way to the Supreme Court, and then with the other 9 cases at the Supreme Court was unceremoniously discarded this past spring. It's kind of disheartening. However, we now have Amy Coney Barrett, who's already proven to be on our side. So that's what CNJFO was formed for. To start this, you have to come up with money. So how do you make money? Well, we started by having social events. Okay. And that's how our organization started. We built a grassroots group of people who like to get together, who like to do things like hunting and sporting clays and all sorts of shooting sports, and also use their efforts to then foster the 2A community in New Jersey and build a war chest so that we can push back against some of this legislation. Some of our efforts have actually, for the New Jersey chapter of the DC Project, we donated branded shirts for them. They don't have much of a budget, and so CNJFO ponied up, asked our members in a matching campaign, and made sure that the women of the DC Project in New Jersey had branded shirts that they could identify themselves and have some unity. And, that's what CNJFO was founded on as well, was unity within the community. We work very well with the other groups in our area. Our members support Tony Simon's Diversity Shoot. They do also. We're very active in the community and in helping out other organizations and helping ourselves out as well. So.
Well, we appreciate it. As the part of the DC Project, and your group is the only group who has done that so far. So we want to use you as a show and tell. So you're going to be the new standard that everyone is going to be measured. Every other pro-Second Amendment organization is going to be measured against you guys as the yardstick to say, well, if New Jersey can do this, how come one of the other states cannot? And we really as part of the DC project. Really appreciate that.
And really, it didn't take much effort or money at all. And there's really no reason that some of these much larger Second Amendment organizations, as we might call them, even elephants in the room, couldn't step up and lend a hand here and there, right? We try to put our money where our mouth is, support our fellow organizations and friends, and make sure that we're true to our mission, which is, forgive the term, but spread the 2A gospel.
Now, you guys definitely live your mission because you're kind of everywhere. Everything I see that we do, you guys are there. And it's been really great because you really do show support of other organizations, not only the DC Project, but A Girl and a Gun just launched a chapter in New Jersey. And you guys gave a great shout out on your website and let everybody know about it. So you guys really live the mission to get the word out and encourage people to come out. That's one thing I noticed about what you do is it's not just about the advocacy work, but it's really emphasizing the fun of shooting, going and shooting sporting clays or going on a pheasant hunt. There's nothing better to win hearts and minds of people who haven't gone shooting before than to get them out shooting. So I love that the work that you're doing is including a lot of that fun in your advocacy work too.
Last year we did actually 2 youth shoots where we, for a small fee, brought young people in. Obviously, they had to have their parents with them because the liabilities and all that such. But we ran 2 youth shoots, and that's where we put the youth, behind the safe line, not downrange. We don't shoot at the youth. That doesn't go over well, huh? Okay.
No, people
it's a youth shoot. It's not a turkey shoot, right? No. So we introduced a bunch of kids to firearms. Both at a location in North Jersey and at a location in Central Jersey, and we actually had 2 of those scheduled for this year as well. But you can't. We've got our own special circumstances here in New Jersey. We've got a governor who, on April 16th, told the public, "The Bill of Rights are above my pay grade."
Wow.
Ouch.
Yeah. Right. So. Now he's clamping down on outdoor gatherings. We're not allowed to have more than 25 gather outdoors. So one of the other hats I wear is Scoutmaster of my son's scout troop. Mm-hmm. We have about 22 boys. You put enough adults with that, and poof, you're over the limit. Mm. So we're now the last thing that any of these young people want to do after sitting in front of a computer all day is do yet another Zoom meeting.
Right.
Yeah. We were we're in the northern part of the country here, similar to what most of you guys are, and so we're it's 4:30 and it's dark out. We were still having meetings outside. It's November. Amazingly, in New Jersey, it's still not cold. I don't know what's going on. Thank God for global warming, perhaps. But we were still able to have scout meetings in November outside. We were doing this at one of our assistant scoutmasters' houses. And now the situation is such that somebody's saying, no, you can't do that. So now what do we do? Now we have to pivot again. So, it's been a year of pivoting. We pivot with CNJFO. We pivot with the Scouts. We pivot here. We pivot there. It's trying to figure out how to make everything work despite everything else that's going on, and I think that's I think in many cases that's the mantra of the 2A community. You take this, we're gonna pivot, right? Somebody says, "Oh, you can't have a pistol grip," we'll pivot.
It sounds as if he's pivoted so much he needs a pink tutu to pivot. If he does.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
Well, and Dan, in South Dakota, Dan, when we have a warm November, which we have this year, I've still not put the motorcycle away yet for the year. But the saying goes, if you get a warm November, you're going to pay for it in March.
That's my fear. Usually it's January, February gets very cold then, but we shall see what's going to happen. So just to touch on something else that CNJFO did, we reached out to our legislators and the state police recently this year regarding our continued infringements of our Second Amendment, wrote a letter we received a reply from only our legislators in District 24. So I want to give a shout out to Senator Oroho and Assemblyman Space and Worths. Those were the only three that replied in any kind of fashion and replied positively. Assemblyman Space runs Space Farms Zoo and Museum in town, in the northern part of the state. He also has an extensive collection of antique firearms. It's a really neat museum to visit, not just telling our New Jersey people, but anybody on the East Coast. It's worthwhile to come and take a look at his stuff. So I throw that out there. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Well, the one thing I wanted to toss back out, as you know, Robyn's talking about the stuff that you guys do. You have Rosie as one of the people who represents you, and I ran into him recently in Scranton, and he is kind of the biggest cheerleader in a package that you wouldn't expect a cheerleader to be in. And I just want to say how much I absolutely adore that man, and how lucky that the state of New Jersey is to have him.
Thank you. Rosie is our probably certainly the driving force behind our Blackwire Media group that's under CNJFO. Has broken a bunch of stories. There was a young Marine in North Jersey who was arrested for having 30-round mags that came back in his footlocker from the sandbox. He didn't even have a gun for them. He just had 30-round mags. Okay, they arrested him. We blasted that across the country. It went viral. The fire and brimstone that came down on the legislators for that was incredible. And as a result, they just kind of swept that under the rug and made that go away. So Rosie's been instrumental in a bunch of that. Rosie sets up all these social events. He does this pheasant hunt. We're doing one in February, and he hunts it with a 10 gauge muzzle loader. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Side by side muzzle loader, and that's that 10 gauge kind of exemplifies the Rosie personality, right? It's a little more gun than you need, but it's nice to have. and you've met him, Amanda, so you know that's pretty accurate.
Got it. Oh, I love him though. I love him. So
he is a great cheerleader for the Second Amendment and certainly for CNJFO. And then I'm joined as well in our organization by Jack Pyle, who is our treasurer, and Jan Nepper, who does some of our tech stuff, and then Teresa Einacker. She's our communications director and also our resident lawyer. I hope I'm allowed to say that. And she backs us up on those kinds of things. And very shortly, we hope to have some fantastic breaking news regarding those kinds of things. And we'll just have to tell everybody to stay tuned, because there's some good stuff coming. We saw SAF recently put out a lawsuit. They are suing a bunch of people, and certainly New Jersey is among the mix. I'm glad to see that, and certainly we are in full support of that. And I think we're all working towards the same end here, and that is just to bring as many cases as we possibly can, and take a little page out of the Saul Alinsky book, and that is overwhelm the system with a lot of lawsuits, and not frivolous ones, well-crafted, well-argued, the right plaintiffs, and designed to get us some traction. You may have heard that our local NRA chapter was recently dealt a little bit of a blow, in that the 10-round magazine ban lawsuit that they had brought was kicked back, but that tees us up then to get into the Supreme Court. So they're moving forward as well.
let's talk about that for a second, because
well, if I could, we're at the bottom of the hour. If I could, let's hold that thought for just about a minute and a half. We're going to jump to break, and then Amanda, I'll turn you loose as soon as we come back.
Holding.
All right. Hang on, everybody. We're going to hear from the SAF. We'll be right back.
America is under attack, and we need you to take action now. Our history, culture, constitution, and the American way of life are being assaulted. Violent anarchists are rioting and looting in cities across the country. They are demanding the defunding of our police and an end to law and order. There has never been a more critical time to defend our right to keep and bear arms. The Second Amendment Foundation created the Second Amendment First Responders Program. This program seeks to actively engage Americans who want to protect our Second Amendment rights. Please text PROTECT 2A to 474747 and become a Second Amendment first responder. Now is the time to defend our right to keep and bear arms. Text PROTECT 2A to 474747. Again, text PROTECT 2A to 474747. Now is the time to defend our right to keep and bear arms. Text PROTECT 2A to 474747.
All right, we are back. This is the Second Amendment Foundation's Polite Society podcast. This is our second interview segment. Amanda, I told you as soon as we got back I'd turn you loose. Go for it.
Is this the spot where I say, oh, I forgot? What
Yes.
are we talking about? No.
Exactly.
No.
Magazines.
So actually what we're talking about is I want to just kind of roll around amongst us and amongst friends about the value of failing a lawsuit or getting it rejected or getting it kicked back. Because if we win a lawsuit, we win it in that municipality, or we win it in that state, or we win it in that little corner. But if we don't win it, they kick it back, it allows us to appeal, and it allows us to elevate it to the next level of court. And that really is what the Second Amendment people are looking for, is to try to take them to the highest courts in the land, so that what is put in place is actually put in place for all of us, and not just a small community, a small municipality, that type of a thing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. When we had, on the very first weekly bullet that I did for the Second Amendment Foundation, we had Alan Gottlieb on. And that's one specific question I asked him, and he said, we're going to a lot of these courts that we've already been to. They've already given past decisions against us. We're bringing up these lawsuits and we're saying, look, you've already ruled against us once. Please do this ruling quickly if you're going to rule against us, so we can move on to the next court. These lawsuits, in a lot of cases, if they're refiled, are refiled simply because they want to kick it to a higher court.
Right. So Dan, how many lawsuits do you have that you're hoping will get booted back to be elevated?
So there's some stuff that may or may not be filed soon.
Okay.
Okay. So the magazine case was definitely kicked back. The SAF has, I believe, a carry case pending. There's some other cases that I've heard hints and some idea about. We're going to see what's going to happen in it. I would say we'll see something probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks for sure. Which is, hey, that's a nice Christmas gift for us as in the 2A community, right? One of the conversations I had with Teresa recently was that there had been a decision in a case, a positive decision in the case, and then that case wasn't published. And so because it wasn't published, it doesn't set precedent. So I asked her simply, well, who decides, what causes a case to be published? Oh, well, that's done by the judges. Okay, and who decides that? Well, the judges decide that. So that's kind of fixed on the back end, right? Mm-hmm. If the judge is not, it doesn't want that to be, it doesn't feel like that's enough of a land-breaking or groundbreaking case, he may say, no, I don't want to publish that. And therefore, then that falls off, and that's so what I understand is it can be cited, but it doesn't set precedent. Whereas once it's published, it sets precedent. And so there's these nuances of the law, that there's these pieces that are moving in the background, these tiny little gears that you would think that, oh, this has no bearing on anything, and yet it could have a significant bearing. There's so much. One of the gentlemen that we work with there, Jay Factor, has just an incredible grasp of the history of the Second Amendment in New Jersey and what occurred and what happened. And the Attorney General that put forth the initial permitting scheme in New Jersey put it forth because he wanted everybody to have a background check, which we hear a lot about today, but this was back in 1968. So he put that in place, and then the legislature agreed to have only a 30-day time limit on that to turn those permits around. Well, that was regularly being violated. So magically, all of a sudden, this system changes, and now what was previously on paper and previously handled by the local police departments is now being handled centrally by the state government. It's handled electronically, and now is being, it seems to me, the timelines are getting better. We still have a local slowdown here and there because some of the locals still do their own local check because certain offenses aren't reported to the state, right? If you get pulled over for something, it may not be a great enough offense to go to the state court. So the state may not have a record of it, but the local may. So the local police are still involved in the background check process. However, all of this, and then you still have to do a NICS check. So you have a background check to then go and have another background check. And currently, the New Jersey NICS system is running somewhere between 4 and 8 days behind. Yes, days for that, quote, instant background check. That's what we're dealing with here. So how do we get over this? Well, when you have the both sides of the, when you have a minority in the legislature of 2A advocates, and when you have both the Senate and the Assembly controlled by the left, by the antis, and then you have a governor who's clearly anti and takes his marching orders from Moms Demand Action, who, thank you, John Petrolino, and I think that was SAF too, that did an Oprah request and proved that he was taking marching orders from Moms Demand. This is what we're up against here. And so why is this important, though, to the rest of the country? So I feel the need to point this out. In 1991, our governor passed an assault weapons ban. Almost word for word, that became the national assault weapons ban. What starts in New Jersey doesn't stay in New Jersey. You need to know about what's going on here so that you're prepared in Texas, so you're prepared in Pennsylvania, so you're prepared in Arizona, and please, don't think it can't happen here, because they all want to push it. Put my tinfoil hat on and say it's a conspiracy. They're all pushing the same thing. They all talk behind the scenes.
You're so right. I mean, they say it couldn't have happened in Virginia, and look what's happened in Virginia. Mm-hmm. Ohio had been one of the free states, and we've got into a spot where our concealed carry, though the law says in 45 days they have to issue the license, they're now not taking applications for somewhere around 9 months. But once they take your application, then they will they'll fulfill it in 45 days.
We're getting some comments in on social media, and unfortunately, I think I broke the software that puts the comments on the air. Big shock. But I want to. John Petrolino, who just got mentioned, said on YouTube, legislating from the bench. And I think that's something, Dan, you might be able to speak to this. You may not be able to speak to it, but I think that's something that 3 states, New Jersey, New York, and California, are just absolutely rife with, is judges trying to write law.
We certainly, the issue, Paul, is that they don't even have to try. They do it, and then the legislature sees it and in some cases says, oh, that's a good idea, and then they make it law. So they get an idea and then they just run with it. We had one gun a month ran through several years ago in the dead of night. It was like December 30th or something. They put it through literally in the dead of night. And as with many things in New Jersey, particularly when we talk about the magazine situation, these laws are put in place, and there's no grandfathering in New Jersey. They don't write the law and grandfather the guy that had 15-round magazines before. And by the way, 15 was our limit since 1991, which was the assault weapons ban. So we had to go from 15 to 10 rounds, and that meant if you had a 12-round XD40 mag, sorry if you don't like XD, if you had a 12-round XD40 mag, you were now a felon. You had to get rid of it by a certain date. You didn't get rid of it, now you're a potential felon. And there's guys still walking around with mags over 10 rounds, and they don't recognize how the legislature or how the laws have shifted to, well, they say, well, when I bought it, it was legal. I mean, how would it be if you bought a car and tomorrow they said only 3-wheeled cars are legal, and you go out and you just start driving? Well, oh, sorry, go to jail. This is the situation that we're in here, where they just yes, Paul, they're legislating from the bench and they're eroding our rights. And the analogy of that Mr. Calandro has used in the past of they slice our rights away like slicing bologna or salami. I want to turn that around. Okay, I want to get our rights back like they're thick slabs of liverwurst. Okay, I want a nice fat chunk of rights back. Okay, I'm sick of this compromise where only I'm giving up something. What's with that? When does it turn around and we get something back for compromising? Okay, but that's not how they see it.
It's not how it works. It's as opposed to a slice of liverwurst. It really is. I use the nose on the Sphinx is just slowly eroding, and he's never going to grow another nose back. And we're looking at him going, well, look, he's still there, but man, he doesn't look the same.
A couple more social media comments I want to get to. Brian Barnes says, I'm a proud member of CNJFO. And Iron Horseman over on YouTube says, so why don't 2A organizations in every state band together and oppose these anti-gun legislators en masse? At the risk of sounding like an apologist for a very large organization that isn't very popular right now, folks, that's what the NRA is for.
Exactly. The other part is that when you're talking about these legislators, how involved are you in politics? Who do you know that is running to be a state legislator? Who do you know that's running to be a congressman? Who do you know that's putting themselves out there? Because that's really what the Second Amendment group should be doing. They should be doing Marjorie Taylor Greene out of Georgia. They should be doing, what was Audra, Robyn, what was Audra's name that ran in New Mexico?
I just went blank too.
But there's Second Amendment folks who are running for office. Lauren Boebert. That's really what we want to be doing. Is how are we supporting them? How are we working with them and for them? And who else do you know that would make a great state rep or a congressman or a senator? And how do you get them involved?
It's a matter of staying involved, too, because we have so many people, especially right now here in Texas, the Capitol's been closed. So even legislators say they want to keep it closed to everyone who's not doing business. So what does that mean for someone who's going to advocate, to testify in front of committee? It just makes everything a little harder, but we have to adapt for COVID and all these other ways for advocacy and participation and scouting, we have to adapt for advocacy too. It's really important that people don't get complacent and expect the NRA or SAF or someone else to do it for them. It's really important that we all adapt and find new ways to stay in front of our legislators.
Well, we are coming up on the end. We're actually just a little bit over on the end of the segment. So, Dan, if you would please let everybody know if CNJFO. It's a bad night, just a bad night. CNJFO. People are interested. How do they get in touch? How do they become members? How much is membership? All that good stuff.
Membership is $50 a year, cnjfo.com. We are on Facebook, CNJFO, and come and hit us up. And you know, as far as that 2A, getting the unity and the activism, we're working on it, but it is like herding cats.
Yes, I absolutely believe that it is. All right, folks, we got to step aside to break. When we come back, we've got our news segment. We're going to be, as we teased in the open, we've got a recall on some Smith & Wesson pistols. We're going to be talking about lots of other stuff coming up, too. It's been a busy writing week for me, so what's in the show notes may or may not make it to the news, but I got some things I need to say. We'll get to that right after this from the Complete Combatant.
This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by The Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant is designed for a broad base of citizens that range from students that don't own a gun on up to advanced students that train often. The Complete Combatant offers several different courses that build upon each other, from avoidance, using verbal commands, and preparing for contact, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, your 911 call, interacting with the police, to even dealing with the legal system in the aftermath. The Complete Combatant courses are a layered approach for all levels of experience that will walk you through all the many stages of decisions while developing a game plan tailored to your skills and your everyday carry. Please visit www.thecompletecombatant.com and make sure you mention this ad to receive 15% off. Again, that's www.thecompletecombatant.com and mention the ad for 15% off.
All right, we are back. This is the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation, and I haven't screwed that one up even once tonight. So there, the first time in 4 weeks, I haven't screwed that up. This is our news segment.
Still young.
Yes, we've got about 45 minutes to go. We've got about 45 minutes to go. I want to get to, before we get into the news, we've got a few more social media comments I want to get in. Iron Horseman says, I personally communicate with county commissioners, assemblymen, state senators to further 2A rights. Very good job. Very cool, Iron Horseman. Troy Smith says, I prefer Law Dog's cake analogy. I guess I'm not familiar with that one. And Dan just chimed in and said, thank you, Paul. And as you can see, Dan's gone. He's frozen. I need to get his picture updated. But anyway,
he's not frozen. He's still there.
Oh, he's moving around. Hey, okay.
Yay.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and let's talk a little bit about the news as I make Dan go away here because I don't want to keep him all night. We do have a recall. The Smith & Wesson has recalled 2 of their M&P Shield EZ pistols. Hammers were cracking, and it basically turned them from a semi-auto single fire to a full auto handgun. Now, with an 8-round magazine, you're not going to be having a fun gun type of day, but I bet you if that goes wrong, it's going to make you, it's going to stain your shorts, that's for sure.
I'm telling you. So when you look at that, though, pay attention to the fact that it's from March to October of 2020. So this is not a design defect. This is a manufacturing defect. So the manufacturer of the hammers made some kind of a process change, and that process change affected the quality made in that time window. So they're going to be very specific about the serial numbers of the guns that are being recalled, and getting those repaired. But so they know when the process change happened and when the process change went back. And I'm pretty sure that there's probably some engineer who, as you put it, they're keisters in a sling, because that's just something that you do not do once you've got a frozen process. But something changed.
That's the height of the pandemic too. That's this year when guns were flying off the shelves. So I'm sure we have a lot of new gun owners that don't know how to even submit a recall. So we're going to have to educate these people to get it corrected.
And how do they even know that they've taken their gun, they've gone to the range a couple times, and then they've set it down? So how do we even know where it went?
I gotta add two things. Number one, George Geller says, "I'll just keep my Smith & Wesson easy and wear brown pants." Dude, that's awesome.
That's a good comment.
But these Smith & Wesson EZs, I carry one as my summer gun. It's not an EZ, it's a Smith & Wesson Shield, but it's the same size. And they're great carry guns for summertime when you've got to have a compact gun to carry around with, because you're not wearing tons of clothes. But they're also great beginners guns. A lot of people, their first gun is something the size of a Smith & Wesson EZ. And so, yeah, you've got people, this may be their first firearm, and all of a sudden it's recalled, and unless they're involved in the gun community, how are they going to know?
Right. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Smith & Wesson is kind of freaked out about this because they're going to have to try to figure out how do they find them, and what the process is, unless they actually do an active, they know the distributor that it went to and cause the distributor to send a postcard, kind of like your car. It may take something a little more unique for these guns specifically. Robyn, what do you think? I mean, there are a lot of your target audience, your girls, that we're talking about with these.
Yeah, it's a really popular firearm for carry, and even because the shield is so versatile, I've used it in matches. I've used it in IDP matches, and it's just a really versatile little gun. So I think educating people on how to submit a recall is really important. And like you said, I don't know if people have submitted the warranty cards or if there's a way for us to track these owners of them, but it's definitely going to be a community outreach, I think, on behalf of the distributors and our ranges and our retail centers, for them to get the word out. I think more than just posting it on a glass counter, it's going to take some conversation with some of the people who were buying earlier this year.
Right. Yeah. No, I think you're right.
All right, so what else do we want to cover? I don't know if it's written in the show notes or not, because honestly I got so much going on I can barely glance over at them. But I really ought to take a picture sometime and show you what I have to pay attention to when we're doing these. And Polite Society is the most technical broadcast of all of them that I do. But I had on Wednesday of last week, and it actually hits tomorrow, I got a chance to sit down and do a 30-minute interview with Lauren Boebert, the new Congresswoman-elect from the 3rd District of Colorado. And she's also the lady, she gained some attention really internationally when her restaurant, the Shooter's Grill, became an open carry restaurant in which most of the staff open carried on a regular basis. And I tell you what, I was super duper impressed with that young lady, and I can call her a young lady, she's younger than me, when she is articulate, she's confident, she is well-spoken, and she's not afraid of, when one of the points she made is something I love, and a credo that I've lived by. If you want to succeed, you surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. And that came out in that interview, and it's certainly coming out in the write-up I did for it, which ought to be up on the Gun Mag tomorrow. But she's made news about she wants to carry in the House chamber. And I promised my boss, Dave Workman, I would not reveal her answer until we went live with the article. But go check out the Gun Mag, all one word, .com tomorrow, and you'll hear the answer to that.
You'll hear the answer. That's a great teaser. But I'll tell you, when you say that she's a great speaker, she has been through the crucible. I mean, to run for Congress and to win in your very first foray into that says that you were. She's a student of all of this, and she did well.
Yes, and not only that, in her primary, she beat a 5-term incumbent to get that shot for the seat. She basically was saying, look, this is... Yeah, I'm putting words in her mouth. She did not say these. I'm paraphrasing. This guy isn't supportive enough of our rights. It's time for somebody to go there that's going to do a better job.
Interesting.
So...
I think that's part of kind of the culture of Colorado right now that we're seeing among different colleagues that we have there is in the Boulder, Denver areas, they're ready to strip away rights like crazy, but the rest of the state is saying, hold on, not so fast. So it's nice to see the rest of the state kind of stand up to that and not be bullied by those two communities. So I'm glad that she's getting the support she needs, and hopefully that'll go across the rest of the state.
I'm hoping that she's going to take that vim and vigor to Washington as one of the new Republican freshman congresswomen. You know, it should be interesting watching her and that new freshman class.
Yes, absolutely. One of the things she said, and I remember this, I'm not going to be able to quote it exactly because I don't have it written up in front of me. And we will be running, again, I had to wait until the story released. If there's a show next week, that full interview will be on that show. But she was specifically asked, you know, what about reaching across the aisle? We've always heard that if you want to be successful in Washington, D.C., you have to work with everyone. And she basically, what she said was, you know, I'm willing to work with anybody as long as it doesn't cost our government a lot more money or take away any of our rights. She says, I'm willing to work with anybody, but if they're going to go against our Constitution, they kind of got to wonder why they're there in the first place, and maybe they shouldn't be.
Nice.
So, anyway, we are we got 3 minutes left. What else do we want?
One of the topics that I was kind of excited about is Andrew Pollack moving into the Prevention Research Center. So that'll be a really great change, and for Dr. Lott to move into where did he go? The Department of Justice.
Yes, so he went into a Department of Justice job.
That was a really exciting move.
Was that the biggest surprise? I was like, wowza.
And I was surprised just because I didn't think that he would move into that kind of official capacity, because a lot of his research is kind of pushed out by a lot of, you know, different communities who don't want to hear his statistics. So he tends to be silenced by kind of the system. So I was surprised he was invited into it.
Well, keep in mind this was this was in the Trump era. This happened in October. Not saying the Trump era is done, but it's not looking good for the home team. Let's put it that way. This was in October that he actually left, and the news really didn't break until a little over a week ago. And I'm just hoping...
Did you see who else is on his board?
No,
You've got to go look it up. It is the most eclectic group of Second Amendment advocates that I have ever seen. I mean, Andrew Pollack and Ted Nugent.
Oh.
Now
that's kind of oil and water right there.
Exactly. I mean, and then when you put those guys and John Lott and Nikki Gozer, you know, it's like, it is that's a cocktail party that I want to go to.
Oh, yeah.
But what's great about that is you'll have so many different perspectives. You'll have the academic, you'll have the family, you have, Nikki's story is so compelling and powerful, and you have all of these diverse stories all arguing for the same point. I mean, how great is that?
Oh, I think it's wonderful. I just as I looked at it, it was like, I mean, we all know that John Lott is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And he marches to the beat of a different drummer because people have tried to get him to channel in the direction they want him to go. And he's like, yeah, no, I'm going to go where the data takes me. And so for him to have built this board that looks like this is just another check mark in the brilliant column.
One more story before we get to the top of the hour, which we actually just hit. But, this is podcast. We can go long. I wrote about this past week, and Santa Clara County, California, that is south of San Francisco. It is the county directly south of San Francisco. It's just as hard to get a concealed carry permit there as it is to get it in San Francisco. And oh, by the way, it is the center of evil for the entire universe because that's where Cupertino, California is, otherwise known as the home of Apple. And there's been a in the sheriff's office a very much of a controversy brewing. Two of the undersheriff and a lieutenant deputy have been brought up on charges. Two attorneys related, not by blood, but two attorneys closely involved with the sheriff, Laurie Smith, have been indicted. Three members of a security company have been indicted, and now the security chief at Apple has been indicted, all over a pay-to-play scheme with concealed carry permits. $90,000 in donations for the sheriff's re-election in 2018 were exchanged for 12 concealed carry permits. And I want to say $70,000 of Apple iPods or iPads or iToilet paper or something were exchanged for a couple dozen concealed carry permits for security officers at Apple. The sheriff has not been indicted at this point. I honestly, personally believe that's on the way, but yeah, bad things are happening down south of San Francisco.
So, and there's just more every couple days. Is that what's happening? So it's still this onion is being peeled one layer at a time. Okay.
Yeah.
Who's the whistleblower on it? Who's the one on the inside? Because it's in the show notes. It says that the concealed carry permit that was held up, he's denying the allegations. So who's blowing the whistle?
I haven't been able to find out who started. Somebody ran to the media, and I don't know who it was. I have a suspicion it was inside the security company. I want to say the name of the company was AS Solutions, and I'm going off my memory because I not reading.
The interesting thing that you ruled out, maybe it was last week, I'm not sure, was that if you made a substantial donation, there was a 70% chance that you would get a license, which means if you made a substantial donation, there's a 30% chance that you got butkus. So there is a chance that it's one of the 30%ers.
That's the whistleblower. I would think so tw. That's what I would do. I'd go straight to the media.
Right. Wait. You said if I did this,
Exactly.
I did this.
Exactly.
Right.
All right. Well, I think that's going to go ahead and do it for the news because, we're 2 minutes over. No big deal. But we're going to go ahead and set the news aside there. We got a DGU segment we got to get to, including one out of Vancouver, Washington. So we're going to do that right after we hear from Concealment Solutions.
This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by Concealment Solutions. Jason Christensen makes the most comfortable inside the waistband holster on the market, bar none. The Black Mamba. Some of the other products offered are the Sidewinder outside the waistband holster and Python gun belts. Every product that Concealment Solutions makes has unsurpassed craftsmanship that shows in the fit and finish of the product. Visit concealmentsolutions.com to view all of the products available, and you can get 10% off your order when you enter the promo code POLITICS in the promo code box at checkout. That's concealmentsolutions.com.
All right, we are back. This is the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. Before we get to the DGUs, we got one more comment from George Geller. He says, John Locke wrote More Guns, Less Crime about 40 years ago. That is hard to believe, but it's absolutely true. He's written a bunch of books since then, but yeah, that book's been out there for 40 years. All right, let's go ahead and get to the DGU segment. And before we actually start popping these DGUs off, I need to read that these discussions are not legal advice. Some of us are trainers, but this is not formal training, and you need formal training. The defensive gun use segment is intended as information, not as training. As always, the opinions of the hosts are only their own opinions and not those of any sponsors or other affiliations. Amanda, you appear to have claimed the first one in show notes. What do we got?
So a 49-year-old man was done with shopping at Lowe's, and he was getting ready to leave when he saw another man running out of the store's emergency door carrying merchandise. He was headed toward a waiting vehicle with a woman behind the wheel. The witness drove closer to the supposed getaway vehicle in an attempt to get a license plate number. The 20-year-old runner, the suspect, he had been running out of the store, approached the vehicle, the witness's vehicle, and started hitting it with an axe handle. During his attack of the vehicle, he broke out the windows. The driver got out of his vehicle, and the man with the axe handle started moving toward him. The witness was armed and pulled out his gun and shot the axe handle wielding man. He then called 911 and provided aid until emergency crews arrived on the scene. The attacker was taken to the hospital and remained there. Vancouver Police, the Major Crimes Unit, continues to investigate, and no other details were released, including any possible criminal charges of either of the two men. I want to jump in on this one. It's a good on the guy for trying to get a little closer, trying to get a license plate, trying to let police know which way the car is going. That's great. If the guy starts approaching you with an axe handle, whatever it is, he starts approaching your car, it's time to hit the throttle and go. If he starts hitting your car, it's past time to hit the throttle and go. You should probably do it right now. What you should probably not do is get out of your car. You are so right. He had a means of escape that he abandoned.
Yes.
So that he could stand closer to a man with a club.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was exactly my reaction to when you said the driver got out of his vehicle. I was like, and game changer. That was not a smart move at all.
I was like, what are you thinking? Why are you doing that?
Right.
What's
Don't
the
throw it in
purpose?
reverse.
Yeah.
Right. Unless you own Lowe's, like you have no business
Even then.
trying to...
Even then, unless you own the insurance company that insures Lowe's, right? You know,
right.
And this is Washington, not Texas. So even if they owned the store, it's not legal to use lethal force to protect property.
Right.
So,
no, right, but I mean,
even in Texas, it's not a good idea.
Even just getting involved and risking your person to get, if you go and just to get a license plate number, if that puts your own person in harm, you know, that was a wrong decision.
We tell our students a lot that if you feel like you've just put on a cape and you're like, here I come to save the day, you're probably wrong, right? That's it. If you are like, holy crap, Maisie, we need to run for it, then, and you can't, that may be the reason why you pull a gun. But not because you put your cape on and then got in trouble.
Couple comments on social media. Troy Smith said, broken windows equals lethal threat. And I would agree with that.
Right.
But he also said escape? Correct. Yeah, that's always supposed to be your first. If you can escape, and you've got at least a 90 horsepower, if you got one of these little tiny Econo boxes, vehicle underneath you, that's just great for selecting reverse gear. I'm gonna make a suggestion I haven't made in a long time, and it's the wrong time of year to do it. For people up here, if you live down in Texas, if you live in anywhere in the southern tier of states, it's starting to open up right now because it's not so hot. Find a USCCA club in your area, the United States Sports Car Association. What they do is they set up parking lot timed events all throughout the country, and they will teach you to drive your car to the limits of its ability. And you will know exactly what your car will and will not do. There are places where you can go to get defensive driving training, advanced defensive driving training, like how to properly perform a J-turn. A J-turn, for anybody my age or maybe a little older, is something called a Rockford. If you've ever seen the Rockford Files, you know what that is. You go really fast in reverse, you yank the wheel one way a little bit, the other way a lot of bit, and all of a sudden you're going the opposite direction and accelerating away. It looks cool as hell. More than that, it's effective. So, but yeah, we all train with handguns. We love training with handguns. Do yourself a favor. It's just as much fun. Go train with your personal vehicle too. Charlie Chambers. Hey, Charlie, I'm glad you're watching. Charlie Chambers says, a Chevy truck is over 43 million grains. Use the accelerator. Love it.
He did the calculation. That's the funny part.
All right, let's go ahead, and we burned up 10 minutes of this segment on this, so let's go ahead and go to the next one, which is down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. 70-year-old Bill, oh my goodness, Corcunas, had just stepped out of the shower and was settling in for the night when he spotted a figure outside his window. Corcunas, a polio survivor in his childhood, went over to the light and flicked it on. He was hoping to scare away whoever was there. Instead, the light drew the young man to his front door like a moth to a flame. The front door to Corcunas' home was made of glass. For the next 15 minutes, he stood on one side of the pane of glass, barefoot, unclothed, with his crutches, trying to steady a gun in his trembling hand, while a stranger stood on the other side, pounding on the door, banging on it with his hip, or gnawing at the thick hurricane-grade glass with a garden paver. Corcunas had no idea why the 23-year-old stranger was trying to break down his door, and even more disturbing was the response by the Broward County Sheriff's deputies. None of them came close to his home in order to stop the man. Instead, they waited down the street until he walked over to them and surrendered. Corcunas and his neighbors flooded the 911 system with calls begging begging for help for 15 minutes. Quote, "If he opens the door, can I shoot him?" End quote. Corcunas asked the 911 dispatcher about 2 minutes into the call. In minute 3, Corcunas tells the dispatcher that the stranger is trying to kick the door in. The man could also be heard telling the stranger that he had better leave or he was going to get shot. In minute 4, he barks into the phone, "Get the cops here quick." 3 minutes later, the weariness could be heard in his voice as he says, "Sheriff, hurry up, please." And 3 minutes after that, where the hell are the cruisers? They're still not here. Jesus Christ, there's still no cruisers. Please come to my house. Please, please. When he tells the dispatcher that his glass door was smashed in, he didn't know how to do. I don't know. He is told the deputies were canvassing the area. A dispatcher heard the breaking glass and alerted the 18 deputies who had been assigned to go to the Corkunis home according to the log. Corkunis was not ready to pull the trigger. Had the stranger gotten into his home, he didn't know what he was going to do. A neighbor who heard the noises stepped outside and saw the stranger banging on the door with a paving stone. He called 911 and could be heard yelling at the man to stop. When the man eventually moved on to another home, Julio Fuentes followed at a supposedly safe distance. Another neighbor who called 911 trying to get help for the Corkunis, then for herself when the man started heading to her house. With each passing minute, the more incensed the woman got. The stranger eventually walked over to deputies and surrendered. Weeks later, the neighborhood is still all shook up. Corkunis is still haunted that he could not pull the trigger, but now everyone he talks to wants to buy a gun. He takes his along when he walks his dog. Tamarack Mayor Michelle Gomez, a lifetime acquaintance of Corkunis, was told the story of what did and didn't happen, and she declined to comment. The suspect was arrested on 2 burglary charges, battery of a person over 65, and throwing a missile into a building. He is out of jail. He's out of jail on a $14,000 bond. Now, Broward County, folks, you're going to remember that because that is the same county that Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, where 17 people lost their lives on Valentine's Day, was, where the Broward County sheriffs just kind of staged outside and waited.
Right, Parkland,
exactly.
Parkland. This is it. There should be no reason in the world why those sheriff's deputies still have jobs. Mm-mm. Why that sheriff still has a job.
That's what I was going to say. Why the sheriff? Yeah, everyone needs to be calling for that sheriff to resign immediately. That's unacceptable.
Yeah, and the fact that they just keep perpetuating the same thing.
But this goes to about what we tell people all the time. You're on your own in a lot of situations. How are you? Are you trained? Are you prepared? Do you have the equipment? Do you have the knowledge? Because there may be times when first responders aren't coming. How are you going to protect your family? So this just goes to show that people have to be ready.
And that's one thing I want to bring up is you own a gun, and that gun is nothing but a club if you're not willing to pull the trigger.
I know, but you see their reticence because when you're forced to pull the trigger, and it really is forced, when you're forced to pull the trigger, it's going to change your life forever. And so you're looking at it to say, this is the tool of last resort. Is there something else I can do? Anything else I can do? Please come and help me. Please be a deterrent. Please stop them before I have to change my life forever.
I want to get, George Geller says on YouTube, cops meet the definition of an auxiliary, something that's a nuisance when not needed and fails to function when required to do so. Well, at least it appears in Broward County. So, and Can Carter says, I agree with you, Amanda. So,
yeah, it's just, you look at this and it's like, if I lived somewhere there, I would be actively recruiting another sheriff to run against that sheriff. Mm-hmm. And I would be so politically active in what's happening.
And you never know, these deputies were probably there wanting to respond. It might have been a policy, it might have been their hands were tied. We don't know why to have 18 deputies there. there's something else is going on with that department and their policies and their training. So everybody in Broward, I feel bad for you guys.
That can be changed, but it's got to be changed from the top. If that's the case, if that's the case, they got to change it from the top. We're going to go ahead and set this segment aside. We got one more. It's probably going to be pretty short, but we'll get to that segment and we'll close the show down right after this.
It all failed before. Alcohol prohibition brought us organized crime, and no less alcohol. Drug prohibition brought us murderous, no-knock, wrong-house raids.
Police! Search warrant!
No, wait! The crack house is next door!
Now gun prohibitionists want laws to lead us down that same path. Don't Americans ever learn? Just ask yourself, isn't government the only beneficiary of police-state policies? Brought to you by Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership. Information available at jpfo.org.
All right. I want to, one more comment that just came in. Can Carter said the 70-year-old was naked. That should have been enough to scare the bad guy. Yeah. Okay.
I'm there. I get it.
This is our last segment. This, again, is the Second Amendment Foundation's Polite Society podcast. This is our final segment, and normally we talk about getting listener feedback. Folks, honestly, the way I really want you to give us listener feedback is to come join us live. Every Monday, probably including next Monday, now that I think more about it. Every Monday at 5 p.m., Central Time, 6 on the East Coast, 3 on the West Coast. We do a live broadcast, usually about 90 minutes. Come join us on either Facebook or YouTube. And as the stories come out, as we're discussing things, you can jump in on the conversation too. Just make a comment, we'll get it on the air, and we'll either laugh along with you, cry along with you, or scream along with you, but we'll comment on it too. So that's what I got going there. And at this point, I normally say, hey, John, Rob, what's been going on your blogs? Well, John and Rob aren't here tonight. I do not know what Rob's doing. I know John is visiting family, but if you would please go visit Rob's blog over at slowfax.wordpress.com or John's blog, onlygunsandmoney.blogspot.com.
Now, see, the thing is that you ask, have you written anything? You might not know. Maybe I wrote something. Robyn writes stuff. So, well, Robyn, what have you written lately?
Well, I try to write something every week. So you can head over to agirlandagun.org and look under the Learn tab. There's always new articles there.
So talk about one you've written recently. I'm going to put you on the spot now that I got put on the spot.
Well, now I have to think, because I was actually with my children for Thanksgiving, which I usually, like you said, Paul, when you're awake, you're working. So it was kind of nice to step away from the computer this week. Oldest was home, and I don't get enough time with him. So it was nice to be with my kiddos.
So, Robyn, are you still doing Women and Guns?
Yes, womenandguns.com is still online. Anytime an article comes by on a topic that's interesting to that specific audience, we post it. I don't post as frequently to womenandguns.com as I do to agirlandagun.org, but yes, both of them are still live and active.
Very cool. Since we do have a little bit of time here at the end, I want to brag on Amanda here, and I want to thank Amanda very publicly. If you're not listening to Eye on the Target on the weekends, you certainly should. I, for the last 3 weeks, have been having an absolute blast every Sunday because Amanda has started broadcasting as we do the Polite Society. She started doing that with the Eye on the Target radio. And she had this Lathrop guy on yesterday. I had a lot of fun jumping on the air with her. But I think the more fun I have is teasing Rob Campbell when you guys are on the air.
That is absolutely, you guys have to go see it. So there's a couple pieces to this. Is that Paul's involved because we're not only doing it live for like YouTube, but it's also being picked up by OpsLens. So Rob's like, oh boy, we're doing TV in addition to radio, and so he's like, well, what are you going to put next to my name? And so some of his friends have come up with some ideas. Maybe they're not his friends. We'll just say. So roll out a couple, Paul, because they are hysterical.
Well, when
I have to say, I like the ZZ Top
Yes.
Top beard model. That was a really good one.
When we very first started, I didn't know what to put under there. I mean, you've got your hashtag, I want to be like Amanda, so I put that under your name. But I didn't know what to put under Rob, so I just put Rob Dude. And because that was, from way back when you were just on one little radio station. And so then, a couple weeks ago, I started playing around with it a little bit. And the real 007 was in there. This week, Olympic gold medal, or Olympic napping gold medal champion, or something like that.
That's the one that broke him up. We came back from a commercial break with him just howling.
It was it's been fun, and I've had a lot of fun.
So anybody who wants to play along, send Paul some of your ideas, because I think this one's gonna have legs. It's pretty cute.
Yes, one of them, Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie, was helping me yesterday along with some of them. And I could go try to pull some of them up, but I'm not going to do that while we're live on the air. But I do remember a few of them were the original Gerber baby and swims with a knife in his mouth. And,
The thinking half of Eye on the Target Radio.
Yes.
And, and something about a lunch buffet.
Yes, lunch buffets
something.
fear the man, yes. So that is at 4 p.m. Central Time, and if you go to the Self-Defense Radio Network, it gets broadcast there. If you go to Eye on the Target's channel on YouTube, it gets broadcast there. Or if you have the OpsLens app or Roku, it's broadcast there as well. So we are, I think, going to go ahead and shut this down a little bit early unless there's anything else we want to bring up.
I am good.
All right. Well, I would like to thank Dan Grdovic. Grdovic. Thank you, Amanda. I should have had you read that. I want to thank Dan Grdovic for joining us today. For Amy, Dana, Tracy, John, Susan, Amanda, Robyn, and Rob, until next time, stay safe, be aware, and we'll see you down the road.
The views and opinions on the show you just heard are those of the host and the guest and are not necessarily the views of any sponsors or other affiliations. But hey, not everyone is as smart as we are.
Okay, we are clear of recording. We're still live, and I want to get one more up. This is just for the people that are watching us live. Charlie Chambers commented just now, Eye on the Target Radio is a fun Facebook live streaming. It helps me in North Carolina to watch and listen. Thank you, professional stunt double Rob. And then which Dana replied, Rob has a face for radio just like me. That's one I haven't used yet. I must have I must use that one. So, alrighty, and George Geller says thank you. Thank you, George. Thank you, everybody, for watching and joining and participating. You folks really help make the show. It makes it a lot more enjoyable to do when you folks can kick in your live commentary. We're going to go ahead and shut down the live stream. Everybody, thank you. Join us next week.